As soon as Kuwait became independent on the 19th of June 1961, the Constitution was put into force, providing citizens with a wide range of freedoms aimed at ensuring fundamental rights through defined and clear functions. Part 3 of the Constitution focuses on public rights and duties and explains a wide range of equal freedoms for Kuwaitis. Article 29 states, all people are equal in human dignity and in public rights and duties before the law, without distinction as to race, origin, language, or religion. But the article does not mention gender. In spite of the constitutional freedoms provided to all Kuwaitis equally, both men and women, a systematic process of discrimination and marginalization of women from politics has been exercised and institutionalized by law over the last 50 years. They enjoyed a constitutional right of political participation, but were denied it in practice. However, since the start of Kuwait's democracy, there has been a serious movement pushing for women's suffrage. In the past, the government realized the importance of women in the modernization process, especially in the labor force. Women benefited tremendously from the financial resources made available to Kuwaitis, primarily in the area of education. Some women chose to pursue their higher education at leading Arab and Western universities, and upon their return home, led movements calling for the expansion of women's rights in the country. Kuwaiti women have achieved remarkable levels of success in the areas of economic and social development while struggling for political participation. They devoted their time to establishing organizations that played critical roles in advancing their cause. They also channeled their energy into many arenas such as social development, education, cultural activities, sports, and charitable works. They expanded their efforts by providing women with a voice in the public square in attempts to fight for their political rights, a process that proved to be agonizing, consuming 50 years of their time. While women were seeking a place in the public eye, effective organizations were competing for their voices in the country. The Cultural and Social Society, or the CSS, and Arab Women's Development Society, or AWDS, were established in 1963, and the Girls' Club was established in 1976. Women were active in all aspects of Kuwaiti society. They made up of about half of the population, according to earlier statistics, and composed of a third of its workforce. They were represented in virtually every professional category, and women in the state of Kuwait have many of the same rights as men. Kuwaiti women are guaranteed the right to work for equal pay. An estimated 33.8% of the total labor force is Kuwaiti females, the highest in the whole Gulf region. Education and unemployment, providing equal opportunity for Kuwaiti females, has been an important factor in liberalizing women's traditional roles in Kuwait. Kuwaiti women are guaranteed a free public education through the university level, as well as free health care. Female education began in 1937. Its benefits are clearly evident with the emergence of a variety of professional women in the workforce today. Women are not confined to jobs traditionally reserved for females, such as teaching and nursing, but hold all types of positions, from those in the government sector to professional positions in the oil industry to running independent businesses. They are represented in almost every professional category and are present in all professional fields, such as education, medicine, business, journalism, and banking. Kuwaiti women also hold prominent positions such as ambassadors, president of Kuwait University, and undersecretary of higher education. There have been several proposals by the former defense minister, Sheikh Salim al-Sabah, to make sure to incorporate women into all scientific and military fields in the Kuwaiti army as well. Women's suffrage was regarded as one of the most pressing issues in the state of Kuwait. In May 1999, the late Emir His Highness Sheikh Jaber al-Ahmad al-Jaber al-Sabah issued a decree granting women the right to vote. However, the right was struck down by the National Assembly in November 1999. Following the outcome, supporters vowed to continue to push for full political rights. The government then indicated it would again submit a bill to Parliament the following term. Though at the time women did not have the right to vote, their part had nonetheless been active in the political arena. Not only did women play a major role in liberating their country during the Gulf War, they also proved active in several social and cultural organizations that routinely call for political rights. Many organizations such as the Women's Affairs Committee, Kuwait's Union of Women Societies, and other predominantly female organizations structured campaigns and conferences to protest the exclusion of women in the political arena. Kuwaiti women on several occasions protested against their political ban. They routinely marched on the National Assembly's lawn, holding signs and banners demanding political rights. On other occasions, they marched into voter registration centers in police stations, demanding to receive their political liberties and rights. Islam is not against women's political rights. In fact, under Islamic law, all human beings are equal. Nor is there anything in the Constitution of Kuwait that limits women's right to vote and run for office. But despite all this activity and approval, Parliament again voted against a similar bill a few months after the Emir's original decree was rejected in 1999. Then 6 years later, on May 17, 2005, for the first time in its history, Parliament voted to give women the right to vote and run for office. The motion was passed with 35 votes for and 23 against. Announced by then National Assembly Speaker Jassim Mohammed Al-Khrafi, the result was greeted with thunderous applause from the public gallery, where backers of the amendment were gathered. The amendment to the electoral law meant women could for the first time vote and stand in parliamentary and local elections, ending decades of struggle by women's rights campaigners for full suffrage, and promised to redefine the city-state's political landscape. Unfortunately, on May 3, 2005, Kuwait's all-male parliament failed to approve a bill that would have allowed women to vote and stand for election in time for the municipal elections due to take place later in the year. The first election they could participate in was set for 2007. Despite this notion, 2005 saw another historic achievement for Kuwaiti women. On June 12th, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah appointed Dr. Masouma Al-Mubarak as the first Kuwaiti woman to be the Minister of Planning and Minister of State for Administrative Development. Dr. Masouma Al-Mubarak, a political science professor at Kuwait University, said at the time that she was proud to be Kuwait's first female minister. She added that the appointment of women in such positions would enhance Kuwait's image internationally. In 2006, the first elections took place where women voters were allowed to cast their ballots and run for seats as members of parliament for the first time in Kuwait's history. Although no female candidates were successful that year, it was still embraced and fully supported by a majority of Kuwaiti citizens and will always be remembered as a proud moment in history for Kuwait and an important step for Kuwaiti women. 2 years after, in January 2008, Nouriya Al-Sabih was appointed by His Highness the Emir to become a member of the Parliament and Minister of Education. Nouriya Al-Sabih said that His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah was always a great supporter of all causes concerning the welfare and rights of Kuwaiti women, and serves along these lines in the same spirit as those who led the nation before him. After Kuwaiti women were given their right to vote and run for office, they failed to win any seats in the 2006 and then the 2008 elections. But despite unsuccessful previous attempts, May 17, 2009 welcomed 4 women to parliamentary seats: Dr. Masouma Al-Mubarak, Dr. Dashti, Dr. Asil Al-Awadi, and Dr. Salwa Al-Jassar. This was an unprecedented and historic moment for women's rights, to see 4 female members of parliament elected at once, a strong message from the people for a call to change. highlighting women's suffrage in Kuwait dates as far back as the early 60s. However, the Iraqi invasion in 1990 piques their strong persistence in what may be an example of the largest impact their efforts achieved for the country. Many women risked their lives for the country, while many others lost theirs, like martyrs Asrar al-Qabandi, Sana'a al-Fudari, and Wafa al-Amr, and others, who led a group of Kuwaiti resistance and participated to liberate Kuwait from unjust and cruel occupation, thus more than proving themselves as active members of the society. Not only have they played a significant role in liberating Kuwait, they have also proven active in all professional fields, giving many examples of strength and competency prior to and post receiving the right to vote. In 1994, the Kuwaiti Diplomatic Corps appointed its first female ambassador, Nabila Al-Mullah, who held her position as the ambassador to the Republic of Zimbabwe. She is currently the Kuwaiti ambassador to the Kingdom of Belgium and the ambassador designate to the European Union. Since then, many other female diplomats have followed in her footsteps and are currently serving in Kuwaiti embassies all around the world. Furthermore, Dr. Rasha Al-Sabah, who once held the post of Undersecretary of Higher Education and is one of the Emir's most trusted advisors, was named International Woman of the Year for 1996 and 1997 by the International Biographical Centre, or the IBC, in Cambridge, England. Dr. Rasha has exerted most of her efforts in the fields of education, culture, and women's causes. In 1993, Faiza Al-Khrafi, distinguished scholar, professor, and accomplished scientist, became the first Arab woman to be appointed rector of an Arab university. Petroleum engineer Sara Al-Akbar has been a member of the Kuwait Oil Company since 1981. She played a prominent role in extinguishing the oil fires following the Gulf War and cleaning up one of the worst environmental disasters in history. She received the Global 500 Award from the United Nations Environmental Programme in recognition for her work. Badriya Al-Awadi is considered the top legal expert on human rights and women's rights in Kuwait. She holds a PhD in international law, has published over 10 books, and has taught law at Kuwait University for the past 7 years. She has invested much of her professional career to eliminating illiteracy and raising awareness of women's legal and political rights. On April 21, 2013, the Malaysian magazine Leaders honored Sheikha Hissa Saad Al-Sabah, the daughter of His Highness the late Crown Prince and Father Emir, with its top award for women and society development in appreciation for her outstanding efforts within the framework of the Arab Businesswomen's Council. In a statement to Kuna on the occasion, Sheikha Hissa said she was personally honored to represent Kuwait at this level, noting that her honoring was fruit of her work within the Council for promoting Kuwait and Arab women. Sheikha Hissa added, "With His Almighty's help, we succeeded in 12 years in creating an international Gulf Arab reputation." Elaborating on Kuwaiti women, she expressed hope that banks would help the Kuwaiti businesswomen with interest-free loans to facilitate their bids to launch enterprises. Citing the business magazine, Sheikha Hissa mentioned that 12 Kuwaiti women were among 100 women grouped in the global list of females of outstanding records, noting that she was personally honored for being among those 100. Kuwaiti women have also enjoyed tremendous success in the private sector, where many Kuwaiti women sit as CEOs and heads of companies managing great wealth. For 2 consecutive years in 2006 and 2007, the chairperson and managing director of global investment house, Maha Al-Ghunaim, has been chosen as one of the 100 most powerful women in the world by the international finance magazine Forbes. She has been ranked due to her impressive leadership, vision, and great economic impact. Furthermore, within the media sector, Kuwait's first female editor-in-chief, Bibi Al-Marzouk, sat as the head of the thriving daily Kuwaiti newspaper Al-Anba. The current Minister of Planning and Development Affairs and Minister of State for National Assembly Affairs, Dr. Rula Dashti, is a Kuwaiti activist advocating democratic reform, gender equality, and increased roles for women in public life. Dr. Dashti lobbied for the May 2005 decree permitting Kuwaiti women to vote and run for parliamentary elections for the first time. She was the first woman to file her papers at the election department when the registration opened, and was also a candidate in the 2006 parliamentary election. In the 2009 parliamentary elections, she won a parliamentary seat to become the first woman to enter the Kuwaiti parliament. She holds a PhD in population economics from Johns Hopkins University. She has lectured, conducted, and managed research in development and applied economics, particularly in regard to the country's recent quest for modernizing its economic, financial, and social processes. She has served as manager of economics at the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research and has been an economist for the Kuwait National Bank, along with providing consultant services to the World Bank. She is a member of the Executive Committee of Kuwait's chapter of Young Arab Leaders and is the first woman ever elected as head of a professional association in Kuwait. On March 27th of this year, a conference was held in Kuwait entitled The Role of Decision Makers in Promoting Equitable Society, with the participation of former Member of Parliament and Minister Masoum Al-Mubarak. Masoum Al-Mubarak highlighted that only 7% of leadership positions in Kuwait are held by women, a statistic not drastically different from the rest of the world. Meanwhile, Kuwait Society for Human Rights, or KSHR, released a statement indicating the role of women has become a fundamental and decisive issue on international levels, adding that women's rights have become a priority not only for women and their organizations, but for the leadership of countries, societies, civil institutions, and reformists, as women hold a distinguished role in the development of society. Unfortunately, women are still hostages of oppressive regimes and male-dominant societies, which have made the issue more complicated. On the occasion of World Women's Day, the Society pointed out that women in the Arab world are still marginalized in human development projects, which Arab countries undertake due to the fact that women are still not given equal rights as men in terms of equal opportunity based on criteria of competence and ability. In addition, their political rights are still diminishing by not including them in leadership centers and decision-making. Women's International Day, which is held on March 8th of every year, has come as Kuwaiti women are going through difficult conditions. The political role of women have been clearly marginalized when the voters disabled participation of women in the National Assembly. And with regard to cabinet posts, women were ignored even though their participation had gained momentum since the Women's Political Rights was endorsed in May 2005. There is no doubt that a retraction in developing the political role of women in parallel with social and civil conditions lacks gender equality in Kuwait, which is a clear violation of Article 29 of the Constitution, which criminalizes distinction based on gender. There are systems which ban the grant of nationality to children of Kuwaiti women married to non-Kuwaitis, just as women are deprived housecare rights which Kuwaiti men enjoy. There are a lot of laws and procedures in the country which need to be amended because they deprive women of their right to be treated equal as men. Moreover, the balance and equality of rights is not only about increasing financial aid for women. The issue is to consolidate the role of women in development operations. Efforts which women render in Kuwait can be observed in various sectors from the public to the private, let alone their role in building a family and nurturing children. Developments achieved by women in Kuwait is countered with retrogression of political roles, which leads activists and those who work in civil societies to confront unfair campaigns waged by conservative and narrow-minded forces against the role of women in development activities. women have achieved great successes during their engagement in parliamentary work. On October 21, 2009, Kuwaiti women were able to obtain passports without the consent of their husbands or fathers, an issue that was highlighted when a woman complained her husband had prevented her from leaving the country. Following a ruling by the country's constitutional court, the court found the previous requirement was in violation of guarantees of freedom and gender equality in the constitution. The article abolished by the court dated back to Kuwait's 1962 passport law, which required a husband's signature on a woman's passport application. Dr. Asil Al-Awadi, one of the former MPs, welcomed the passport law ruling as a victory for constitutional principles that puts an end to this injustice against Kuwaiti women. On June 11th, the National Assembly focused on the cabinet amendments of a law on providing state housing for women. The first article of the law stipulates that the State Savings and Credit Bank should offer interest-free loans aimed at providing appropriate housing to either a Kuwaiti national divorced woman or a widow, as long as she does not already possess a home. The second stipulates that the Kuwaiti woman should begin receiving a rent allowance each month after applying for such benefits. This is the latest gain for women in the state of Kuwait, making a number of strides towards gender equality in recent years. Chairperson of the Health, Social and Labour Affairs Committee and member of the Women Affairs Committee, MP Dr. Rula Dashti, said a joint committee consisting of members from the Parliamentary Housing and Women Affairs panels will finalise a proposal on granting housing privileges to Kuwaiti women not covered by the existing housing law. Dashti said granting housing rights to women is one of her major priorities and it is part of her electoral programme. She is determined to resolve the housing issue for Kuwaiti women to ensure that they enjoy family and social stability. Furthermore, she stressed that several Kuwaiti women associations have been demanding approval of the housing draft bill over the last years, in addition to consolidating their role in social, human and economic development. Dashti added that the National Assembly members will take the required steps to ensure justice for women who have been suffering due to the absence of proper housing care, especially divorcees, widows, those married to non-Kuwaitis, and unmarried women who lost their parents. Clarifying the housing rights issue involves a large number of Kuwaiti women not covered by the current housing care program. Dashti disclosed that this group includes 27,500 divorcees, 21,200 widows, 11,000 married to non-Kuwaitis, and 8,600 unmarried women above 40 years old. She said she had earlier presented a draft bill on the establishment of the Women Housing Fund with a capital of 500 million Kuwaiti dinars. Chairperson of the Parliamentary Committee on Women and Family Affairs, MP Masouma Al-Mubarak, explained that Kuwaiti women will be entitled to receive social and children allowances if the husband does not receive them from the National Treasury. She expressed delight that the committee was able to find a lasting solution to this issue, which has been pending since 2009, and added that she hoped the National Assembly will adopt the decision unanimously and the government will not obstruct its execution. On May 16, 2013, former National Assembly Speaker Ali Fahd al-Rashid affirmed the Parliament's keenness in supporting Kuwaiti women in several laws until they get their complete social and civil rights as stipulated by the Constitution. Al-Rashid said in a press statement on the 8th anniversary of the adoption of political rights for Kuwaiti women that the sacrifices made by these women and the march of the struggle they have led for decades have contributed to drawing the history of contemporary life in various fields. He added that Kuwaiti women have proven their excellence at all levels and noted that they have assumed several leadership positions and made a lot of creative and distinguished works. He recalled their role during the Iraqi invasion of the country in 1990 and wrote their names on the list of righteous Kuwaiti martyrs who contributed much to influence the political arena in Kuwait. Al-Rashid considered the approval of political rights for Kuwaiti women as a historic turning point in the political life and the democratic experience in the whole country. Kuwait's support and fight for women's rights extends beyond the realms of the local political arenas. On June 26th, the State of Kuwait vowed to extend $100,000 to the UN Women Organization for the next 2 years. This was announced by Kuwait's acting charge d'affaires at the United Nations, Abdelaziz Al-Jarallah, during an annual UN Women's meeting. He said the move comes out of a belief in the UN Women's vital role in women's empowerment and gender equality. He added that the State of Kuwait believes in the necessity of stepping up international efforts in the fields of development, cooperation between the UN women and governments to take integrated procedures and comprehensive strategies aimed at boosting women's position and broadening their involvement in all areas, including the UN Millennium Development Goals. He hailed the UN meeting as a significant opportunity for renewing international commitment towards material and in-kind support for the UN women. The Kuwaiti diplomat also voiced his country's appreciation for the UN women's role in the direction of UN activities bearing on gender equality and women's rights development. Currently, women in Kuwait are considered to be among the most emancipated in the Gulf region. They are able to work freely as police officers, special royal guards, special forces officers, immigration officers, and can achieve positions of power and influence in all of those positions. In other fields, Kuwait witnessed the first graduation ceremony of the first group of female cadets of the Institute of the Saad Al Abdullah Academy for Security Science on March 25, 2009. Today, as the country witnesses the parliamentary election, Kuwaiti academics and journalists attributed the low number of women candidates for the National Assembly elections to the lack of support and encouragement from civil society institutions. The fact that only 8 females stand for the July 27th parliamentary elections in 2013 seems to show a lack of experience and of support from the NGOs, particularly the women's societies. Dr. Abdel Hamid Al-Sarraf, professor of political science at Kuwait University, said that Kuwaiti women gained their political rights just 8 years ago. This time span is too short for them to compete with males who have 50 years of experience. He added, though some female politicians are better qualified to run the elections and have more winning chances than males, they favored to quit the race due to the lack of support from the civil societies. Females face difficulties in forming electoral alliances with political blocs, mainly controlled by males. And the support, particularly from female societies, could play a decisive role in the electoral race. In many respects, Kuwait is one of the most advanced countries in the Gulf region and has prided itself on being a standard setter among Arab countries. However, when it came to women's rights, it trailed behind the rest. Consequently, the victory of the struggle for women's rights in Kuwait is indeed a great achievement and one that gives hope to both Kuwaitis and to the people of the region. Though they lag behind in the political sphere, Kuwaiti women's clear successes and active involvement in the socio-economic development of the country marks a firm presence of a strong threshold to leap off and head in the race to catch up.